Hello, I'm Martin from ClimateCamp, and today I'm going to show you the latest developments we have in our platform to help you measure and reduce Scope 3 quicker. So let's dive in. First off, let's take a look at the improvements we made to connect with suppliers and keep track of the overall supplier engagement process. So in ClimateCamp, you go to my network and outgoing requests to track the supplier engagement process. And here, by clicking on the Build Your Network banner, you can invite a bunch of your suppliers. So for example, Coca-Cola is one of my suppliers and Microsoft is one of my suppliers. I simply input the company names, click Next, and we try and find the relevant entity related to these names. After we have found them, you can easily connect with the right entity. And when that happens, let's simply click Connect. One of our supplier onboarding coordinators will reach out to the relevant company to try and gather carbon data. We will also scrape any and all public sustainability information and add it to their accounts. Once you are done with connecting with all your suppliers, you can simply click Done. And then you go back to the overview for the supplier engagement process. Here you can see all the different suppliers for which you have requested their data, but you also, and this is a recent improvement, can keep track of the overall process. So in this case, we've invited 11 total suppliers, but you can see as well that for these 11 suppliers, we have received data from 7 of them. 1 is still in active outreach, and 3 still have to be launched from our supplier onboarding coordinators. So this way you can keep track of how successful the supplier engagement campaign was. After you've evaluated the overall success of the supplier engagement campaign, you can take a look at the supplier maturity as well. As you can see here, we added a maturity level column and a data point within the ClimateCamp platform, which tracks which maturity level certain suppliers have. Now, what do the maturity levels entail? You can read so yourself, but it goes from having no data to having one data point, such as corporate carbon footprint, all the way up to having PCFs, reduction targets, as well as having verified numbers as well. Once you've checked the maturity level, you can get a more detailed view of the supplier by clicking their name. Once you click their name, you will get some general information, but you can then go into the organizational footprint, and then it will be for a certain year, so for example 2023, and you can consult the relevant CCF data. You can also, if this customer has shared PCFs with you, consult which are the PCFs that have been shared. So this is a quick way how you can consult data points that have been collected by ClimateCamp. This overview shows the maturity for each of your suppliers individually, but we also made an improvement in the Reduce tab, where you can see if you go towards Reduce Supplier Maturity, you can get an overview of the distribution of the 7 suppliers who delivered carbon data. So in this example, you can see that only one of my suppliers is verified and has 3 levels or 3 data points delivered, CCF, PCF, and reduction targets. But then you can also see that most of the companies are still in basic, so only have a corporate carbon footprint. This way you can track the maturity of your suppliers each year and see how it improves. We have improved how transportation calculations are done. In the past, you could upload data into the system and it would take some time for us to calculate transportation, but nowadays you can run it automatically, and I'll show you how. Simply go to upstream transportation or downstream transportation, if that is the relevant category for you. And within this category, you can add an activity or import data sets. Now, let's assume that we do an add an activity, and I want to transport PET, for example. If you want to do automatic transportation calculations, you simply input transportation mode. So for example, in this case, it's a generic truck that we used and the 2 addresses from where it was transported to where it was transported. So let's say in this case, it was transported from Brussels, Belgium to Prague in the Czech Republic. And then you just simply input the weight, what was transported. So for example, in this case, 1,000 kilograms was transported in 2024. Once you click Save, we will add it to the system. You will see it appear here. Now, the emissions haven't been calculated yet, therefore, you need to run a calculation job. Simply go to Calculation Jobs, and then afterwards click I'll move my loom, click new calculation, and you just have to select the emission source. So for this case, it's upstream transportation, the organizational unit for which it is relevant. The vehicle type is optional, but let's leave it blank, and then start calculation. So let's refresh. We see another transportation calculation has been completed. We can go back to upstream transportation. And here we see the example, pet transport for 1,000 kilograms, the CO2 emissions have been calculated. Now, if you want more detail, you can click and then go to Edit. It will open up a side panel. And once you go to the side panel, you will see the different elements we already filled in. But now you can go to Emission Factor Show, and then yes, I know what I'm doing. And then we will show how the emissions, the total amount of emissions, CO2 equivalents. And then here, how was this calculated? If you press this, you will get an insight into the emission factor which was used and the CO2 equivalent which was used for this emission factor. You will also get a breakdown for vehicle operation, energy provision, hub equipment. You will also get a link towards, for example in this example, the climatic relevant emission factor. Thank you for watching. We hope you found it insightful to see how our platform has improved. And if you want to see more, please request a demo at www.climatecamp.io.